Well, hello, everyone. Of course, thank you for watching another bit of our PeopleWork content. I'm Kim Kelly, the CEO and co-founder of PeopleWork. And today we have a very special guest, Susan, who has helped us do quite a bit of amazing changes for the students that she's responsible for. But I will let her introduce herself and her title, because hearing it from her own mouth is very important. Obviously not her own name. She knows that, and you guys will know that as well, but really her role and what she's responsible for.
Hello, everyone. I am Susan Patterson, and I'm the Director for Career and Technical Education in Arlington Independent School District. So what does that entail?
Yes.
That entails all the gamut of career and technical education programs, 34 programs of study, pathways, if you will, for workforce development, and over 100 courses that we offer, along with student certifications and all the program planning that goes with that at our junior high campuses as well as our high school campuses.
Okay, so there's a little bit of key information that you just said about your job that I don't know if it's common knowledge. And the reason why I don't think it's common knowledge is, so first of all, obviously PeopleWork provides a lot of services for secondary schools, and we have just found this great way to support C.T.E, which is what Susan just explained, which is career and technical education. And what does that mean in terms of a regular high school life? How does C.T.E compare to a high school experience? Is there a difference? And at the same time, in the same breath, how did career and technical education become a separate thing?
Mainly, the quick answer to your last question would be C.T.E became separate because of funding. So C.T.E programs are funded differently than the other academic programs. So there's special set-aside funding, if you will, for the C.T.E programs. So students that come earn a different rate of attendance for what they receive. So that's really why it was separated at first. But C.T.E programs are simply electives. So a little bit like your athletics, like your band, and things like that. So where C.T.E differs from the other programs is that we really prepare students, period. So the way I look at it, we prepare them for next steps. So if you're looking at programs of study, like I mentioned earlier, the programs of study we try to get the students into 4 different classes: freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year. So we're building that skill set, and it's not just one-offs, right?
Okay.
And so really we focus on preparing students for next steps in industry, going straight to work with certifications, or the technical skills that we build in those programs, stacking those year to year. Or we're preparing, let's say, engineering, right? So we're preparing maybe as a CAD technician, but we know that those require 2 4-year degrees. So we're preparing for them for college as well. So we're kind of doing all of those things.
Well, and that makes sense for what we're doing and how we got involved in your campuses and the work that you're doing, but really just helping launch, helping prepare, helping to give realistic information so that young adults can figure out life after high school. For the high school part to it, though, what role do you think it plays in building our future workforce? So comparing a C.T.E career path option with the variety of courses, planning what happens after high school compared to maybe what we went through in high school. Like what role does that play in developing the future workforce?
Well, really the vision for C.T.E is that end game. So our programs are built to end with an internship, a practicum, work-based learning, right? We thread work-based learning all the way through to our freshmen, even down to 8th grade when we can. So really, I think that's the through line, the thread, if you will, that other programs don't have. That we really try not to just build a technical skill in that program area, but also those power skills or those transferable skills where the students are learning how to show up on time, how to be with people, right? And
be with people, talk to human beings, not social media only.
Exactly. So I think that's the set aside that we do, is that we really prepare them technically and emotionally, I guess, if you will, to be ready to go be at a job.
So I've heard two things, and this is kind of deviating from our planned conversation, so excuse me. But there's two things that I'd like to know your opinion on. One is, and I've gotten to learn a lot about the value of CTE and actually how long CTE programs have been building in public school systems. Some of it I kind of felt bad as a parent that I didn't know that there was a CTE option, there was a special career pathway that, my kids, when they were in high school and I was actively participating in the community, I heard a lot of judgment from other parents that if your son or daughter wasn't in a traditional high school path, then that meant their IQ wasn't as top notch, or that they had a less aptitude for success. What is your opinion or your response to that kind of perception?
I think it still exists. And I think part of it is the generation, right? So they grew up kind of in that same era where they saw their friends or whatever looking at jobs that were low end, low level, low wage. But I think it's changed so much, and I think what's helped that is just the different graduation requirements that the state of Texas have put in place and the endorsements that we have. I think it's really shone a light on what's important, and it's not just about going to work, but it's also preparing for the long haul, right? So I'm going to get mid-skill jobs or technical skills, and then I'm going to go and go to get a secondary degree, whether it's 2-year, 4-year school. So I think parents are starting to realize that it's out there that I can get a good job and not be college educated. Yeah. So I think that's kind of come to the forefront more than it has in the past. So I've seen that even over the last decade.
Well, actually, the ironic point is that parents mentally would have rather put their child and themselves in debt, spent their retirement plans just to retain the perception that my kid went to college, even though they graduate and they end up in a $5 an hour 15 years ago, but now, a $15 an hour job. But that is still, so it's a little, I don't know, it's socially ironic to me that people would value and put themselves into financial hardships, into stressful situations, only to have outcomes be statistically worse if they hadn't just opened their ears, opened their eyes to an option like CTE for their kids. So it's interesting that seems to be.
And I think maybe too social media has probably helped with that, because you see dirty jobs, and you see all that playing out in social media. Like almost my kid didn't go to college, and look, he's making $90,000 a year. So you're seeing that change where people are really learning more about what they can do with little or with less or perceived less and less money, right? So maybe my education isn't less because I've got on-the-job training, apprenticeships, things like that translate into the time you would spend in a 4-year degree. Only you don't have that money, like you said. I'm not in debt now, or I didn't go backtrack, so I'm still making a good living.
Well, and it's almost like as a society, I think we have to think through what kind of social structure we want to have, and is it really that we would prefer people to be in debt for the first 10 years of the most important part of their life? I don't know, especially to your point. And I obviously we love social media, we love content because it allows people to just challenge people socially, to challenge the value of not changing what high school is, but being more methodical about what high school is.
We've been intentional, right? Yes. Intentional about what my next steps are. So if I'm looking at that through a different lens, then I can either gain some skills. Maybe I don't use them directly, but I'm gaining the skills. So my first job is a lot better than what mine would have been, right? So I'm skilled up to get a good job, and then I work my way through college. So even that, we're better preparing students for.
Yeah, so that whole skills thing, skills instead of skills and work that's in demand, kind of a good way of approaching it. I think so. Okay, I do want to get back on track because I told you I could just take us wherever.
It's okay.
If there is one general misconception about public school systems that you would like to correct, what would it be?
Well, I think kind of we've talked about that a little bit, is that teachers aren't prepared to deliver to students and students aren't prepared to receive. I think that the misconception is that there is a huge gap, but I think what we're not seeing is the great teachers that we have in place. I mean, probably 90% of the staff at our Career Tech Center came from industry. So they're giving point-on skills that they just brought with them. So we're not just doing theory or curriculum, we're actually providing hands-on instruction from the source, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's one simple. I think just looking at, when you think of the big picture and you think of public versus private, that at the upper end, but I think coming back to the skills we provide and the collaboration piece that we provide, it's misunderstood or not even realized, I guess is a good way to put it.
I understand what you mean, that when my kids were young and I did participate, when I say participate, like I was in the 2030 city planning, I was in the
Gotcha.
high school
Yes.
career, I was talking with the superintendent. So I got familiar with administrative, political, and also advocates of education and what learning should be. I mean, I got to see a lot of that parents who choose to be active in their kids' lives, that they would know those things, right? But I was always surprised, and even just recently I heard a pretty horrific story. I was surprised that parents just was like, here's my kid, make them awesome. Like it was the perception of their school system, whether public or private, was, I am now going to outsource you raising my child. Forget about education, but if they don't understand banking, if they don't understand life skills, if they don't understand how to budget, it's all your fault. And I was always surprised. So do you ever encounter that now, where you're kind of challenged with what exactly you're supposed to be doing for these children?
Well, and I think that's the beauty of mine, where I am the director of our C.T.E. I think I have a different frame because that's what we're doing. You know, we are putting things in line to have the student prepared. So we're even putting financial literacy classes in, or at least segments, workshops that we're doing. So I think I have kind of a different side of that story, because that is the goal. Our goal is to prepare those students to be productive in their work. And that includes financially. And so I think we put those things in place, so I have a different lens, I think.
But that's a good lens.
Yes, I think
that's something to celebrate.
So when you're saying that, I'm thinking, I don't think I've encountered that. Because
that's awesome. That is so awesome. That means that change has happened.
Yeah, I think so. And
I love that. I have to celebrate that. Because I was talking trash the other day because somebody was all about creating this new thing. And I'm like, it's not new. There's so many things that are happening. And I know this is kind of like a broad paintbrush, but there's so many things that are happening to address problems that we all see. So when people just kind of like go off a riff that the world is breaking, I'm like, I don't know what kind of life you lead, like what lens you have. So what you just said is awesome. Like I just got goosebumps. That's so exciting that you have that, because I know that during COVID, there was a lot of parental like like, oh my gosh, my kid is at home now. For a high schooler who's bored is a dangerous thing, versus a 5-year-old who's like, I'm going to pretend on anything. It's just I think parents got an awakening. So some of that, your value, and maybe the fact that parents were like, I'm going to calm down now. Yeah. I understand.
maybe. Yeah.
I understand a lot of it. What do you think is the demand for public educators? And I am kind of saying this as when you go to commune with your peers and you share stories about the pressures of being an educator today, what are those pressures, and are they different than what they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago?
I think the pressure is different. I think the pressure is because industry is more aligning with education. So I think industry is trying to say, hey, this is what we need. So I think on the teacher side and doing it from the C.T.E. side, right? So the pressure is performing. So let's make sure we skill up those students before they leave us. instead of leaving them in a lurch, so to speak, where they can't perform and do things. Well, let's skill them up and do what industry needs them to do. So have them prepared. Do what we say we're going to do. And I think on the other side of that, for the academic side, I think it's the same pressure of preparing them not only, so what if they don't go to college? So academic, it seems, and this is just Susan's point of view, right? Academics has always been, let's look at getting them to college. Well, now it is, okay, what about the flip side? What are we going to do for the students that don't go to college? So I think that's more prevalent than it has been in the past. And I think that's the pressure a little bit for both sides of the fence there. I hate to separate C.T.E. and academics all the time, but
I think you kind of have to.
You do a little bit because of where that plugs in. I think also too, just for our district, kind of blending those together now, that Arlington ISD is really about making sure the students are 100% prepared. So if we're doing that, if that's our goal, then we're going to have to, those two sides of the house are going to have to come together.
Yeah.
Because we got to prepare them academically, and we're going to prepare them for a career. So we got to blend that.
And then of course, people work, real world of work sits in the middle to make sure so that we make sure we can fill, some of those gaps and launch them and also help you track your outcomes, because you talked about, did you do your job, and being able to track, we did, and here's the proof, and we're super excited about that. You just said something though, and I completely lost track of it. It was such a great statement. It was about one of the conversations that we always have on the PeopleWork side when companies are evaluating, are you going to come to PeopleWork to help build your talent pipeline? And then parents start to get involved with okay, the school is taking advantage of the Real World of Work program. Now, what is that? We're not saying we don't want kids to get educated. We're just saying that college is not, when I was graduating, college meant one thing. It is a formal institution that you went to after high school because that was supposed to be your gateway to career.
Right.
Now, college is YouTube. College is now TikTok lessons or whatever it's called. There's so many different ways for people to gain the knowledge, to get the skills related to in-demand work, that it's not college never, or it's not college no, it's college at the right time in the right context.
In the right context is what I think is beautiful of what you said, because what is needed in my path. So, what direction am I headed as a student? And so it's very important that we put those in front of them. And what is my path? So if I'm looking at a path, what are my next steps to get there? And not to leave out in any way any kind of post-secondary education, but how does that fit my mold? Because in the beginning, depending on where I am, I may not need that. But as I progress and I move up, or what is necessary then? And it really is dependent on where I land a job, what I'm looking at. So it's not one size fits all. For sure.
I just think if you were around when I was in high school and PeopleWork, Real World of Work was around, I might not have actually gone to college or my university until my later 20s.
Right.
But I still would have gone because I would have had to kind of make a right back into the academic side, which I think that's why I was thinking about this, because there's, in my opinion, C.T.E. provides the realities of being an adult. And these are the realistic jobs that you're going to be able to get. Not to say that academia doesn't do that. It's just different. If you're going to be a research scientist, you're going to have an academic track because you're going to have to understand more about what it means to gather research versus somebody who is going to take, digital marketing or become a plumber or become 90% of the jobs that are actually available to the majority of human beings on the planet today. So it's not it's the how you think about academia, how you think about C.T.E., how you kind of place that. The context. I think we can make a whole social media thing on context.
And how much would you have valued college more or gotten more out of the college piece had you been older.
Oh, yeah.
Had you been through. So not just sit and get, right? So, right.
Not just the frat parties, is that what you're saying?
Well, I didn't say that.
Just kidding. Okay, so let's see. I just want to make sure I got all the big ones. Okay, good. Now, here's the fun part, because I think everyone is, well, not that part. We're almost there. What role does technology play in both the student's life and your life to be able to make this happen?
Well, and it is a little bit of everything, right? It's how I organize both students, how I organize my business life and my personal life, right? My calendar, the things how I communicate with my family. But what's important to CTE is that connection to industry. So whatever technology piece that is. So that's what we value about what we do, what we look at year to year with our advisory boards or just as we're interacting with maybe our practicum or internship sites, is looking at, okay, what does the student need to be successful, what to learn technical skills, where is that moving? So staying current in that is really the utmost importance. What can we do to make sure what technical skills we're providing are current? And so that is on the technology side. Yeah. So that's really the piece where it comes in for me in my department.
So data and information as much as possible. That's real time.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the...
When looking at, because we have to track everything too, right? Yeah. So without technology, even just since I've been in this position, how we've realized technology for the vast number of students we have, right? The sheer number and volume of students we have coming in, just to be able to track them efficiently and code them when we have to code them for different reasons. If we didn't have technology, we wouldn't get anywhere. Of course,
right. It's scale and reach. I mean,
absolutely.
That's what it's about. And it's not about diluting quality. I think sometimes people hear scale and reach when it comes to technology and public school systems and like, well, my kid didn't get that. And of course, with people work, that's why we make sure that on-demand coaching is there, that we're there to support the career service function so that every kid can get the support in real time for what they need. Because ratios within the school district right now to be able to do that, it's impossible. You just you wouldn't have enough man hours to be able to do that.
And time-wise. So I spend, you're talking about virtual meetings that we're all into now because of COVID, right? Especially with education. But if you think about touching students, getting in front of students, you don't have the manpower.
Yeah.
You do not have the manpower. If you're not using some kind of technology to have those mentorships happen, have that coaching happen, then you're gonna reach a fourth of the students, if that, right?
So I'm so excited. I'm so excited that. I'm so excited for so much that you just talked about. And so the punchline here is that if you are someone who's heard this conversation and you might have had a perception that our public school systems in the United States are not in the best shape and we're just not doing a good job of readying our future workforce. We have a perfect specimen here that actually has a work life dedicated to making sure that that's happening and is proving that it is happening and putting good public funds, tax dollars to work in the most fabulous way. And if you're a parent and you're raising the next generation, know that there's options, and having a conversation about the future with your young adult, the options are endless. And Texas, Arlington, Texas is not the only district that's doing it. This is a nationwide impact. We just get to sit in Texas. And of course, Arlington is one of our first and early adopters for the things that we're doing at People Work to prepare the next generation. So yes, as a disclaimer, I already loved her before she started talking. But if you have any questions about CTE, the information about Susan is going to be on our content for the posting of this channel on YouTube. But now here's the fun part. Okay, so obviously we do a lot for the next generation, and trying to stay relevant is kind of a thing. We have to be able to stay relevant. So I'm gonna give you, here's a little game, and you have to guess. Okay, guess what this is.
Oh no.
Cody Co is A, a shoe,
No.
B, a YouTube star, or 3, a description of an attitude.
Okay, I'm gonna go with 2.
You are correct.
Oh, woohoo!
Cody Co is apparently a YouTube star with over 20 million followers or
very
something
good.
crazy like that.
Very
If you ask me what Cody Co is all about, I don't know. I couldn't tell you that part. Okay, what is the name of the most popular creepy show of 2022?
Creepy show of
Yes.
2022.
It was all the rage. It broke the internet.
Creepy show. Oh my gosh.
I will.
Can I
it
have?
starts
Can
with
I
S.
get it?
It starts it's 2 words. We'll do little, what do you call that? Charades. 2 words. First word starts with S. The last word is things.
Slimy things.
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
So Stranger Things
That is it, yes.
apparently was the
Yes.
thing for a lot of a lot of the world. I did not. I don't dig
I know.
scary things.
I'm sure
so
all
I'm
my
not-
friends are now laughing at me when they see this because how'd you not know that?
So, okay, now here's the final question. How cool is Susan? Well, obviously we think she's super cool, but let's see what her students would think. A Yeezy is a what?
Oh, my 17-year-old son is probably going to kill me for not knowing this. Is it? It's a shoe?
It's a shoe!
I knew
Susan
that.
is super
I knew that. I'm the coolest ever.
So yes, it is the weirdest looking foam shoe called a Yeezy. So now you know. So if you didn't know those things, then maybe you need to check how cool you are and how you're relating to the next generation,
Yeah, you
that's
can
what
be
these.
cool.
Yes, and you can be cool too. So thank you, Susan, for the
You bet.
conversation.
I appreciate it.